Happy Blues opener day from the Randy Karraker Show on STL Sports Central, presented by DraftKings, where the crown is yours. Matthew Rocchio, Randy Karraker. We'll be talking a little bit of blues later on in the show. We'll talk a little bit of Mizzou. We've got plenty for you here on this edition of the Randy Karraker Show. Mr. Rocchio, ready to rock and roll?
Ready to rock and roll.
He is ready to rock and roll. We're going to start with Cardinal baseball, to the dismay of some.
Sorry.
How about this, though? A Puerto Rican publication, El Vocero, or it might be El Vocero, is quoting Yadier Molina as saying that he is talking to the Cardinals about a full-time coaching job. Quote, right now we're in contact with St. Louis to become a coach for the Cardinals and help Marmol. He's still the manager, but I'd be there alongside him. Nothing's concrete yet, but we're working on it. Those are the words of one Yadier Molina. What do you think? We want to hear from you in the chat. This is the way for Yadier Molina to become a major league manager. Rather than go through no processes of becoming a manager, the smart thing for him to do is to show that he's capable of being a teacher and a coach and a responsible person on a baseball team that doesn't take off when his basketball team is playing in the middle of a season. I think there are things that he can show to allow himself to be thought of as a major league manager.
Yeah, and do you think this is the first step in him, trying to show that to a lot of people?
No doubt about
it. And part of it's got to be Albert Pujols is now on the fast track to probably being announced as a manager in the next month or so. And I guess Yadi's saying, well, now it's time for me to put in what Pujols did. Now, Pujols was on the media and the broadcasting side of thing, but people saw his determination to make baseball the next part of his life, just like it was the first couple parts. And I think Yadi, the question has been, for very good reasons, are you willing to make baseball this next chapter of your life, just like it was when you were a player?
And Pujols has an advocate and a buddy in Arte Moreno, the owner of the Angels, who by all accounts wants Pujols to be that team's manager. There is nobody in baseball that is an advocate at this point, at least, for Yadier Molina to be their manager. One thing that I know you're thinking about is that Katie Wu wrote a piece about Yadi last March in which he said that he was concentrating on being with his family and being with his kids. His son is a senior now in high school in Austin, Texas. At about the same time, the Cardinals will be starting spring training in February. His son will be starting his final season, his senior season of baseball. And Yadi made it a point in that story to say that he kind of just sits and watches. He doesn't coach his son very much during games, but once his son decides upon where he's going to go to college, there is no more real teaching for Yadi to do for that son. He also has an 8-year-old son, but he loves baseball. He loves the Cardinals. He wants to get back in it. And I think if he does truly want to become a major league manager, he needs to see what it's all about. And that includes the hours that have to be put in on a daily basis and the media responsibilities that managers have to deal with, because for a lot of people, the media is a tough thing. And Yadi was never a great media guy as a player. He needs to see what Oli Marmol has to go through on a daily basis.
Yeah, and that's going to be the big thing for him. And the daily basis stuff is always going to be the thing I question with Yadier Molina. Not the managing baseball on a daily basis, but the other stuff that comes into being a manager on a daily basis, dealing with the media and things like that. I don't perceive him doing a weekly radio show the way that certain managers have done so here in St. Louis, but
or even one on YouTube.
But it would be interesting to see his relationship with the media nonetheless.
Now, the positive of this is that anytime you can get somebody who spent as much time as he did with Tony La Russa and Dave Duncan and Skip Schumacher and Albert Pujols and that group of people, anytime you can get a Yadier Molina in the building, you're getting a smarter guy. And if he truly is committed to being a coach on a daily basis with his knowledge, he can be a huge difference maker for the Cardinals. Those pitchers meetings, all of a sudden, they take on a different level with Yadier Molina, who sat there through those meetings, first as a rookie with Mike Matheny, then with Dave Duncan, and then with a manager in Matheny. He understands how to go about attacking the opposition hitters, and he understands how to work with catchers in terms of utilizing their pitchers' best stuff. A guy like Ivan Herrera, who wants to catch, will be so much better off having Yadier Molina in the building than anybody else the Cardinals have. A guy like Pages will get better. The young catchers, if Yadier Molina is committed to teaching those guys what he knows. People like Jimmy Crooks and Leo Bernal and Rhinel Rodriguez, they're all going to be better off because of the presence of Yadier Molina in their careers and in their lives. If he's not committed and he doesn't want to teach, then it'll be a different story altogether. But at this point, at least, it appears he's interested. He wouldn't tell a Puerto Rican newspaper that he was in talks with the Cardinals to become a full-time coach if he wasn't all in on it. I don't think that he would want to start that conversation publicly unless he was all in on it.
I think this chat right here from Garrett Brown on Facebook, and please, guys, join the chat. Get into the conversation. You guys can chat with each other. You can chat with us on the show. We'll throw it up on the screen, and we'll react to it throughout this program from now until about 4 p.m. Garrett Brown, again, on the Facebook. Yadi would be extremely valuable on a daily basis for the entire team, honestly. When you get down to the question of why make this happen, the nostalgia obviously carries a little bit of the after factor, but the actual discussion of why make this move, I think Garrett summed it up pretty succinctly in that one sentence.
Yeah, it's there theoretically shouldn't be any negatives. Now there could be negatives, and it depends on. Hey, at this time, 4 years ago, Matt Holliday was announced as the Cardinals' new hitting coach, and then he decided, you know what, he wanted to spend more time with his family, which is fine.
And as we heard from the latest Serving It Up, he has to have the important conversations. That's the thing about Matt Holliday. He's spending his time having the important conversations now on Serving It Up with our good friend Jimmy the Cat Hayes and sometimes his guest Matt Carpenter.
Yeah, yeah, you have to watch that on Jimmy the Cat Hayes podcast. Yeah,
unbelievable.
It is interesting stuff without question.
Imaginary Cobra. Oh boy, can't wait until people are calling for Yadi's job for letting our piss poor pitching kill us every night.
Well, that's just the way things are in 2025 with the social media age and the microwave era in which we live. It's if there's a bad night for a pitcher, somebody's got to be to blame, right? It can't be the pitcher. Can't be the other team's hitters being good. It's got to be the people that are teaching the pitcher or the people that are managing the pitcher. It can't be the pitcher himself or the fact that the opposition is any good, right?
No. The opposition also being talented baseball players is a factor I think other people like to forget. Robert Johnson, Yadi was one of the most prepared players to ever play here. If he wants it, he'll be fine. If he'll embrace the whole job. I think it's crazy to think he won't.
Yeah, and
well, I mean, it's not. We're in fairness, he's basing his. It's crazy to think he won't commit based on his playing career. None of our reaction to this is based on his playing career.
No,
the entirety of our reaction to this is based off the immediacy of what happened at the very end of his attendance in his playing career and the immediacy after that, and when he was announced as a special assistant to the general manager and things like that. Those are the things that we're reacting to here, not anything to do with how prepared he was as a player.
No.
That, of course, is why everyone's excited about this.
And I think we also have to look at human nature here, because Yadier Molina, as a player, as you said, was incredibly prepared, but also incredibly talented. There were things that Yadi could do because he's exceptionally gifted.
Has any catcher been able to make the ball stick to their chest?
No, that's pretty incredible.
Right there.
But let's also look at human nature here. In his career, Yadier Molina made almost $174 million, $173,998,500, almost 174. Okay,
what does a basketball team cost?
Probably 170 million or
okay.
Something like that. Not in Puerto Rico though. But here's my thing: if you are set for life, and your kids are set for life, and your grandkids are set for life, are you going to really want a job that requires you to be at said job at 10 or 11 in the morning? You're there, you're taking care of players all afternoon up until game time. The game ends at 9:30 or 10. You stay there with your coaches and manager until 11 or 12 and then go home, probably get to bed 1:30ish, and then start it all over again the next day. You are working basically 13 and 14-hour days if you have one of those coaching jobs. I don't think they need to do that, but that's what they like to do because everybody else is doing it. It's kind of like football coaches who spend the night in their office. Well, if he's doing it, then I got to do a half hour more. It's ridiculous, but it's true. Joe Torre did fine at managing by getting to the ballpark at 3 p.m. and leaving after the game. But the way it works now is you get there at 10, 10:30, 11 in the morning, and then you don't leave until 11:30, 12 at night. Is a guy who has $174 million in the bank, does that make sense for him? Human nature would lead me to believe that you don't really have to work that hard. Maybe Yadi loves the game that much that he wants to work despite the fact that he has that much money, and he wants to work with young players who can be a hassle at times and don't know the game as well as he does. He might want to work with players and work that hard with players. I'm really intrigued to see how much he'll want to put up with, because he's going to run into that catcher now and then, or that hitter that's going to say, yeah, well, I don't need to really listen to you because I'm here and I'm going to do what got me here.
Here's why I think that's a really good take, because here's why we know Yadier Molina has the itch to be a manager. Not only has he stepped up and obviously contacted the Cardinals multiple times about how he can contribute in his post-playing style, but also he's been the manager of Puerto Rico in the World Baseball Classic.
Mm-hmm.
But to your point, the grind of being the manager for a few months around one tournament, or the few months leading up to that tournament, or the every once in a while when you play a few tune-up games, or in the ramp up to a tournament like that, that's a lot different than the everyday 162 grind. So to your point, we know he loves baseball. We know he wants to be involved in baseball in his post-playing career. There's no doubt about that. But that's why I think the grind is a reasonable question, because we know he wants to be a manager. But the difference between doing the WBC and doing a full major league team, apples to oranges.
Yeah, spring training and the travel of a regular season is a real grind. Brian, money means nothing to a driven man. I think money drives a lot of people too. I think that is the drive for a lot of people.
I think a lot of driven people have a level for contentness. I think there are people out there who can never stop, but I think there are some people out there who, if they see, if you see 14 million, they go, all right, I think I'm gonna pack it up, be a family guy, love my family, travel a lot, and I'll game it out well that I can live off that the rest of my life. Like, there's some people who are driven enough to become millionaires, who are then content enough to kind of live a normal life after that.
Brian tells us Yadi is Tony La Russa Jr. Interesting. Tony really had to work hard to get to the majors. Tony was a George Kissel disciple, which Yadi may be. And I get what you're saying in regards to their competitiveness. Tony, even in his 80s, needs to have a W or an L next to his name every single day. Tony still travels with the Chicago White Sox. They're just the way that they had their careers is different. Tony La Russa had to work really hard just to get to the majors and play not even a full season at the major league level. Yadier Molina was in the majors at the age of 20 and played for 20 years in the majors. So his vision of what it takes to make it to the major leagues is probably different than Tony's. I'm sure the appreciation level for somebody who makes it to the majors is very high for Yadier Molina, but probably not like Tony La Russa. And here is, if he is Tony La Russa Jr., Tony La Russa he was a major league manager, I think, at the age of 36. He spent like 5 years as a minor league manager before he ever got a chance to manage in the majors. And then he went through that grind with the White Sox. He won quickly with the White Sox. Then he went to Oakland, and then he obviously came here before going back to the White Sox. But Yadier Molina played until he was 40. Tony La Russa started managing when he was like 36. So I think there is a pretty substantial difference between the two in the way they lived their baseball lives.
So Tony La Russa, to that point, just to give you the context of it all, Tony La Russa took over in 1978 for the AA affiliate, the Knoxville Sox. 78. And then he spent a half season in Knoxville, was promoted to the White Sox coaching staff when Bill Veeck changed managers from Bob Lemon to Larry Doby.
Okay, and then when did he get the major league managing job? That was in the 19 what?
He was
79?
because then LaRusso was named manager of the AAA Iowa Oaks for 79, and he stepped up as the regular manager for the White Sox. I think halfway through the 79 campaign.
Okay, this is an interesting note. If Yadi comes back, that'd be good for the fan base as well. I wonder how many people would buy tickets simply because Yadier Molina was on the coaching staff. There'd probably be some. I know on that day that Yadi came back to be in the dugout that Friday night, I walked by, as I was walking into the ballpark, I walked by the ticket windows at Busch Stadium right to the left of the Musial statue, and there were multiple people standing in line wearing their Yadi jerseys and jerseys. So I do think that would have a minor effect. It's not going to make you go from 2.2 million to 3.2 million again, but he could bring some people into the ballpark. He should probably get himself an attendance bonus, if nothing else, in his contract.
We're just having fun here. I'm going to throw up Tim Case from earlier in the show. Why not look at Yadi as a pitching coach like Dave Duncan, who was a former catcher? You've been around a lot of pitching coach. You've talked pitching coach strategy. Do you think Yadier Molina has a history maybe in that spot?
Oh, yeah. He could definitely be a preparer of game plans and a guy who sets up the way they attack. Now, one interesting thing about Dave Duncan, he really wasn't a mechanical savant as a pitching coach. He could find out if guys were tipping pitches, and he was great at delivering a game plan. I've told this story before, and Woody Williams has told this story if you've heard him, but Woody Williams, when he got here, his very first meeting with Dave Duncan, Woody was told in the meeting, hey, there's this hitter that won't swing at a curveball until it's 0-2. And so Woody gets ahead, it's 0-2. He throws him a couple of curveballs that he doesn't swing at, and then he gets him like on a fastball low and away with a third pitch that he did swing at. He got him to swing at a curve at 0-2. He threw curves. The guy wouldn't swing 0-1, 0-2 in the zone. Then he throws a curve on 0-2, and the guy finally swung and he struck him out. And he said he threw 6 scoreless innings. I think that's what he did in his Cardinal debut. He said, I was sold after that because Dave Duncan provided the game plan, the roadmap to victory. And I'm sure that that's the best thing that Yadi would bring to the Cardinals, is that ability to combine the weaknesses of the hitter with the strengths of the pitcher, relay that to the catcher, and turn some of these pitchers into better pitchers. A guy like Palante, I think, would benefit greatly from the presence of a guy like Molina, because Andre has good stuff, but it's a matter of utilizing it in the proper way and taking nothing away from Pajes or the people that put together the Cardinal game plans, Dusty Blake and their game plan people. Nobody has the resume that Yadier Molina has to put the Cardinals in position to attack hitters.
And another thing, by the way, going back to when Yadi first made his visit here to St. Louis, and everyone was questioning what this meant about the future of Ollie. I understand there's people who don't like Ollie Marmol, and maybe no matter what happens, those people are never going to change their mind unless the Cardinals are winning in the playoffs. But you have the youngest manager in baseball, and as he's managing his team and they're losing, a legend is brought back into his dugout. Publicly, people are questioning whether or not this means he's done. And not only in comments, but also if you looked at him and not just public comments, but things behind the scenes, didn't sweat it at all about a legend coming in and people being like, oh, this means he's going to be here. Like, no,
Ollie invited him.
Ollie invited him. That level of confidence for the youngest manager in baseball while his team's not winning, man, I don't know about you guys, but I don't think I'd have that kind of confidence if I was in Ollie Marmol's shoes. Like I wouldn't be there. What he's done and that he has that mindset, strip away everything else. That's impressive to me. That shows a guy who's a gamer.
Ollie Marmol is very secure in his job and the way he goes about the job, and with what he has accomplished, winning the 93 games with decent players in his rookie year. I think that gave him a lot of confidence as well. But he's not worried. And he's a guy that understands that to be a great leader, you have to surround yourself with great people. And look at the great ones. When Joe Torre goes to New York and brings in Don Zimmer as his bench coach, Joe Torre here bringing in a guy like Bob Gibson as his pitching coach. Not that Gibby was ever going to steal the job. Look at the people that Whitey Herzog surrounded himself with. Hal Lanier became a major league manager. Nick Leyva became a major league manager off of Whitey's staff. If you surround yourself with good people, the old Dick Vermeil line, surround yourself with great people, let them do their jobs and tell them you love them, you got it going. And you need to have good people. If you're a manager that doesn't surround yourself with an able coaching staff, you're not going to win anyway. So you might as well surround those guys and give yourself a chance to win. That's the bottom line here. A rising tide lifts all boats. If Yadier Molina is here and the Cardinals win, then everybody's going to be better. If Yadier is here and the Cardinals lose, especially if they regress, is a guy who has never managed before and joins a team that loses. If the manager is going to be replaced, who is more likely to get that job? Somebody who's already managed at this level, or, and this is with this administration, or Yadier Molina? I think that I could see Yadi as an interim manager, but I don't know if you're bad, why you'd want to bring back the same crew.
That's fair. And we're getting this from Corey Land, by the way. I think Corey was on the show yesterday commenting from Facebook. So he's over on the YouTube now. We like that kind of migration. Only reason I wouldn't love the idea of Yadi as a manager is when things go south, which eventually it will happen. I don't want his career as a Cardinal to be tarnished by losing in the manager job.
That is a very good point. And we mentioned that about Albert Pujols the other day. Why are managers hired? To be fired. And at some point, the Cardinals will have to fire him. I'll never forget when the Blues fired Brian Sutter, and it broke his heart. Here's one of the all-time great Blues, the Blues Hall of Famer. And when they fired him as their head coach, he was completely devastated by it. I think that that's always something that you have to take into consideration. That's something that the Cardinals should have and should take into consideration with a guy like Yadi, and they should with Albert Pujols as well. I think if you're looking to the future, you have to know that at some point, the guy doesn't own the franchise. He's going to get fired, and it's never a good thing when a guy gets fired. You know, the Cardinals, until this year, until Mike Matheny was brought back for Christian Family Day, and we all know that the Cardinals went years without having a catching instructor, minor league catching instructor, and they didn't invite Mike back. And Mike would have come back and been their minor league catching instructor, but they didn't get in touch with him. I don't know if that was a Mosaic thing, an ownership thing, but when you have access to that sort of institutional knowledge, a 5-time Gold Glove winner who has already been your minor league catching instructor at one point and really helped out a guy like Yadi in 2004, I think you're really messing up by not utilizing the available talents. And that's one thing I would say to Chaim Bloom about the base running too. I think in terms of coaching, they should bring a guy like Vince Coleman to spring training. We had Vince on the show right before opening day last year, and he said he'd love to work with the Cardinals' young base runners. I think that would be a smart thing to do. When you have access to a Willie McGee, you should let him do more than just laminate cards and position outfielders. I think that you should let him coach. He's great.
Shocking.
A guy like Ozzie. And Ozzie does, because who's going to stop Ozzie from working with the shortstops? But you do that. Chris Carpenter should be in the Cardinal organization, helping young pitchers learn how to pitch better. I think if you have legends, you don't have to make them managers, but you should utilize that knowledge.
Oh, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I like this comment from Ellipses 150 that I had up. I saw some people freaking out about the idea of Pujols potentially managing the Angels. I am not one of them. The Angels are terrible. Let Pujols manage him for 3 years. Then by the time the Cardinals are ready to contend, Pujols will have been fired from the Angels, and we can snatch him up.
There you go.
That's a good way to look at it. I like this.
That is. And I hope if Albert gets that job, and I think he probably will, I hope that, number one, they give him a little bit of say over who he's going to manage. Let him pick the groceries if they're going to have him cook the dinner, as Bill Parcells would say. And the other thing that I would hope is that he would grow. They would allow him to grow into the job, because it doesn't happen overnight. You don't become a good manager overnight. We mentioned Tony having to start with the White Sox, and Whitey Herzog starting out, did a little bit with Texas, half a season, and then went to the Royals, and he was good. Normally, when a guy has not been a manager before, if you're going to really allow him to manage, we're not talking people controlled by general managers. If you're going to allow a guy to really manage, it's going to take a couple of years before he becomes that guy you want him to be. That's why we're talking about guys that manage in the minors. That's one of the reasons that Mike Schilt was ready when he walked in, because he managed in the minors. Ollie Marmol was making mostly solid moves when he started. He had managed at the minor league level. Mike Matheny, not as much. It took Mike a little bit of time to get up to speed. It isn't as easy, because everybody says down in the dugout the game speeds up. Not as easy as we would like it to be.
Jay Bach, I never really go out and blame in a professional coach. The blame is usually more on the front office in professional sports. Just my opinion.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Hey, a manager or coach is only as good as the players that he is managing or coaching. But there are a couple of things. Number one, a great coach or manager can turn a lesser team into a more team. Joe Madden did that with Tampa. Kevin Cash does that with Tampa. Whitey Herzog did that with the Cardinals. Joe Torre actually did that here with the Cardinals. It wasn't good enough to win divisions, but that team had no business that Joe Torre managed in St. Louis being around the 500 mark. So, yes, a good manager can lift a team to a higher level than they ordinarily should get to. That being said, a bad or a mediocre manager can bring a team down to a level that they probably should not be at. And that's by misuse of the bullpen and playing the wrong people at the wrong times. It has happened before.
A couple more baseball points, and then we're going to close out the show with the second half being mostly Blues talk, including STL Sports Central's own Mike Meyer will join the show around 3:45. He's our prospects man, so we're going to talk a lot about Dalibor Dvorsky, who we talked about with JR yesterday. By the way, after we're done today at 4:00, go over to the STL Sports Central YouTube and watch our interview with Jeremy Rutherford. Talked a lot about the Blues game. That's going to get you ready for this season. Two baseball things.
Eric Cleveland likes the shirt, by
Yes,
the way.
he does.
Eric, glad you like it. You can go pick one of these up at Golf Discount of St. Louis.
There you go. Two baseball things. One of them's I have it up on the screen, and that was, did you see last night the post game with David Ortiz,
Yes,
Alex
that was
Rodriguez, Derek Jeter,
Yeah,
and Vladimir Guerrero doing the Yankees lose.
Yeah.
And he hit Jeter and A-Rod with it like 8 times in a
Yeah.
row. The people are posting the pictures of a young Vladimir Guerrero Jr. as a child hanging out with Big Papi during one of the home run derbies and things like that. That moment was incredible.
That was.
Mainly because I enjoyed watching the captain and A-Rod getting dunked on,
Yeah.
but also because you know that Vladdy Jr. and Big Papi have known each other for ever since he was a little kid. That was so fun.
So let's see. Once Vladdy gets a ring, I think that it'll help a little bit.
Yeah.
When he's trying to troll Derek Jeter.
It does help.
Yeah.
It does help a little bit when
So,
you're trying to troll.
and by the way, Papi has 3, right?
Yes, he
in
does.
04, 07, and 13. So he's right there with Jeter. Only had what, 5?
Yeah, they popped 2 out of 3 against St. Louis. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
The other thing was video today coming out from Driveline, a little video montage of Jordan Walker already at work.
Oh, J-Dub.
I went into the Driveline camp. It was something we've heard a lot from Major League Baseball players every offseason. Already, Jordan Walker in the Driveline camp. Your thoughts as we go into the offseason? Don't be pumping up.
Somebody asked if that was
I
Panda
know.
Espresso.
I know.
Yeah, you mama, I'm helping you out, brother.
Your thoughts on already seeing videos of Jordan Walker hitting?
I'm glad he's working. I think it would be a shame, though, and maybe telling about the Cardinals staff if Jordan Walker goes to Driveline and turns into a good hitter. And, right? If he goes there and becomes a good hitter, and it didn't happen here with Turner Ward or Brant Brown, what does that say for the Cardinals' instruction and teaching?
That would be a little worrisome. I hadn't thought about that angle.
Yeah.
That's a really good point.
No, not that it'd be a bad thing. And by the way, I think, and I know people are down on our guy, Teacher Man, Richard Schenk, who's the personal hitting coach for Aaron Judge. I don't think it'd be a bad idea for Jordan Walker to look him up either. But if whatever it takes for Jordan Walker to become the hitter that he can become, I'm all for it. And I think the Cardinals probably want him. Heck, Brant Brown talked about his preparation. If the people at Driveline can get him not only to physically prepare better, but to mentally prepare better, then there's no way it can be a bad thing.
All right, we got to talk about some Blues now. And Randy, right now, if you can get over to the other side of the river before tonight, you can get it with the St. Louis Blues over under 92.5 points. And you can get that right now with our friends on DraftKings Sportsbook.
Where the crown is yours, and the wait is almost over in Missouri, too. Once we get to December 1st, DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app, is going to be available to you right here in the state of Missouri, and you can sign up today. With new Missouri customers, you can get $300 in bonus bets when DraftKings launches on December 1st in Missouri. Download the app now and place a $5 bet when DraftKings goes live. DraftKings Sportsbook brings everything you need to elevate your game day, including live in-game betting, lightning-fast payouts, and endless ways to get in on the action, all right from your phone. And when DraftKings officially does go live in Missouri, you'll be betting with the Sportsbook app trusted by millions. Safe, secure, and has fast money withdrawals. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use that promo code STL Sports, the one you see right there on your screen, to grab $300 in bonus bets with just a $5 bet when DraftKings goes live in Missouri on December 1st. That's code STL Sports in partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 plus, physically present in Missouri. Eligibility restrictions apply. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Excludes customers who redeem pre-launch sign-up offer. Terms at sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos.
You talked about it already, Randy. Tonight, Blues hockey.
The Minnesota Wild are in town, a new-look St. Louis Blues group that had a great run last year down the stretch. One of the things they're saying is, hey, we don't care about that anymore. That doesn't make any difference. What we did in the second half last year doesn't make any difference this year. I love the idea of the players buying into this being a whole new year and having to start from scratch. And they really do, even though the top two lines look very similar to the top two lines of last year. But you do have some new personnel. You have some people that are going to have to ascend during the season. And I'm intrigued to see what happens tonight. The Wild are a good team. They have one of the best players in the league in Kaprizov. A lot of people are picking them to finish in the top three in the division. I would not be surprised by that. And the Blues will have their hands full with Minnesota tonight.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see right out of the gate. Kaprizov, that $17 million AAV contract. Is he going to be worth it? Is he going to throw some questions for the Wild in the future? Absolutely, yes. We talked to Jeremy Rutherford yesterday. You can check out our discussion with him looking towards the 2025-26 season. A couple of things we jumped into. We asked him some big questions. One of them was his most improved player for this season, and he threw out Pavel Buchnevich. I think when we talk about that first line, we've done a lot of discussion about Jimmy Snuggerud. Why shouldn't we? He's a rookie with, just over a dozen games of NHL experience. What are you expecting from him in the first line? But Pavel Buchnevich is a guy who hit the highs right out of the gate after being traded with the St. Louis Blues that he hasn't hit since those early first couple seasons. And they're going to need him to step up just as much as they need Jimmy Snuggerud to show up if that first line is going to be a deadly first line. And
Buchnevich will be with Snuggerud and Thomas on that top line. He's certainly a guy that is capable of it. And you and I have been together long enough. I thought for a long time that Buchnevich was the Blues' most gifted player. Maybe not their best player, but the best toolbox. And if you get the most out of that toolbox, he could be something really special. I think the best thing for him is Jim Montgomery having an off season, preparing for Jim Montgomery to be his coach. Remember when he first came here, Monty was one of the assistant coaches, and Buchnevich had his best NHL years with Jim Montgomery as an assistant coach here. If he can stay healthy and Bucci can again collaborate with Montgomery, there's no reason, especially playing with a guy like Robert Thomas, that he shouldn't have a great year. He should be at least a 30-goal, 75-point guy.
I think that's 100% fair. We got Brian here in the chat who's saying Neighbors could be the most improved player. That actually brings us to our next conversation, because one other thing we threw out to JR was potentially the biggest worry for this team. And we did talk a little bit about the penalty kill. We talked about the extra attacker situations and things like that. But what he threw out is, and I need to correct that right there. I meant to say we started talking about centers, and I wrote it down like a fool. The third line right wing was one of the biggest worries that JR threw out there. So the thing about Jake Neighbors is I would expect him to have a solid season, but the people you're playing on your line are always going to affect your point total. Right. So can Jake Neighbors have a big year if the third line right winger is a question mark for the majority of the season? And
I think that'll be very difficult for Neighbors to navigate, taking nothing away from Matthew Joseph. He's an NHL player. He's a really good player, but I don't know that he's a top 9 forward. I'm pretty sure he's not. At least in this scenario, he probably is not. And it's like we mentioned yesterday. If you have Neighbors and Suter and then Matthew Joseph, one of these things is not like the other. One of these things just doesn't belong. And so, yeah, the Blues need to upgrade there. And maybe it is Dvorsky that winds up being the player that comes up and fits in on that right wing with Suter and Neighbors. I just think they need, and Matthew Joseph is a 200-foot player, but his game at the offensive end is not great. It's okay, but it'd be nice to have a third guy on that third line that could produce. I mean, when you go back to Bozak, Maroon, and Thomas, that was like a perfect line, right?
Yes, it was.
And remember, and this is why I'm talking about Dvorsky here, Robert Thomas was a right wing. So you bring up Dvorsky, you put him on that right wing with those guys. Not now. Let him marinate a little bit at the A and circle your players through that you're going to give opportunities to. Let people like Matthew Joseph and Nick Bjugstad prove, at least in my opinion, that they can't do it before you bring up Dvorsky. Because until you bring up, I think you need to give him as much time in the minors. He's only 19 years old as you can. And so let people like Matthew Joseph and Bjugstad prove that they can't do it. You'll get Sonny back at some point, so you can plug Bjugstad in on that right side. And let's find out what he's capable of before we make a rash move and bring up a guy like Dalibor Dvorsky.
The more I look at these defensive top 6, I know that if you with some hindsight, you might look back at like 2021 and be like, well, considering what Vince Dunn and Mikkola and Wallman are all doing, plus you still had Karraker, maybe not the most talent, but I mean, looking at this group of 6, Cam Fowler and Karraker, you got Falk and Broberg, and then Tyler Tucker, who showed everyone how important he can be in that third pairing during the playoffs last year when he went down. And then Logan Mailloux has just a ton of talent, maybe the like right on side Karraker and Broberg, the most like actual potential of these defenders. This is one of the best 6-man defensive groups we've seen in the last 5-10 years for the Blues. And the offensive punch is there, the athleticism is there. We got some grit from Tyler Tucker. Karraker, as we know, is a lockdown defender as a number 1 defenseman. I don't see a hole right now in that top 6 either.
Especially if Justin Falk can bounce back, not to be what he was when he was in Carolina or his first year here, but if Falk can be just average, if he can get to where he used to be 2 years ago, you got something. He did not have a good year in 24-25. Playing with Broberg should allow him to upgrade. And I think Broby will be better too. I don't know if Broby was ever healthy. Is it Broby? You think that's his nickname?
Bergie? No, it can't be. That was Berglund.
Yeah. So
yeah, it's got to be Broby.
Yeah, Broby. Anyway, I think 100% Broberg will make Justin Falk a better player. And then you want to watch Tucker and Mailloux ascend. And with this coaching staff, again, I think that you have a group, like you said, with great tools. Karraker and Fowler are really good players. Broberg is a really good player. Falk has the tools to be. So that's the thing. There's nobody in this group, including Tucker and Mailloux, where you say he's missing something that will prevent him from being a really good player. I think all of them have the ability to be really good players.
Looking at earlier, the predicted jump for a guy like Pavel Buchnevich. If that jump happens, is he the team MVP this year? Or do the St. Louis Blues go how Robert Thomas goes this season?
I think because of what Thomas would have to deliver for Buchnevich to be that guy, I think Thomas would be ahead of him, because I think he will go. I think Pavel Buchnevich will go as Robert Thomas if he's playing at his best, if he's giving 100%, playing a 200-foot game. I believe that Pavel Buchnevich will be as good as Robert Thomas allows him to be. By the way,
it'd be like giving Isaac Bruce the MVP instead of Kurt Warner.
Yeah. Or think about this. Think about when, and Isaac Bruce was great when he had Steve Walsh and Tony Banks throwing to him, right? But it's one thing to have those guys throwing to you and another to have Kurt Warner throwing to you. Look how much better Isaac got when he had a real quarterback like Kurt Warner. And Buchnevich, he's capable of it. Now, last year he played 76 games, 20 and 37 for 57 points. I'm not asking for an awful lot here, actually. I'm asking for 10 goals and 8 more assists to get to 75 points. I'm asking to get to 30 and 45 and playing the same amount of games. And last year he was a plus 10.
Yeah.
So if I can get plus 10 out of Bucci again, I don't think I'm asking too much from him, actually.
You very famously called Sonny the engine of the Blues when they were going on that cup run. Is it fair to say that the position of that engine has moved up a few lines? And is it Robert Thomas, or is it still a team that needs to find the engine somewhere a little bit lower on the ice?
I think that Robert Thomas is that guy. And that was a different team because that was an energy team that wasn't exceptionally skilled. It was built on the big defense with great sticks. Ryan O'Reilly, well, great for the Blues, was never going to be confused with an MVP quality player, right? And he was your number one center. And Perron was great, but he was never going to be, he didn't have the skill set as great as he was. He didn't have a skill set like Pavel Buchnevich, or for that matter, like Jimmy Snuggerud. So because this team is different, it is built kind of with Robert Thomas as the centerpiece. I think he is the engine. I think the Blues can be really good with Robert Thomas there, but if Robert Thomas misses any appreciable time, who's your number one center? At least when in that team, you had Shen, right? And if you lost O'Reilly, you had Braden Shen. If Robert Thomas isn't there, who's your number one center now? So I think he is the straw that stirs the drink for the 25-26 Blues. Robert Thomas.
Absolutely. One last little predictive question here for this next upcoming season. Who ends up as the highest scoring defenseman on the 25-26 Blues?
Oh, this is a great question. Normally I would go with Karraker, but he doesn't get as much power play time.
Doesn't get the power play time. Broberg, Fowler.
I'm going to go with Broberg.
Man, if Philip Broberg is the highest scoring defenseman on the 25-26 Blues, I don't see how they don't win at least how they're not 95 points or higher. Like if that level of improvement plays out, this forward group is injured or just completely gets dog walked away we don't expect. Because if Broberg has a big season, again, if he has, and the number I'm thinking for him is like, if you're thinking like, can he be a 50-point guy? It's like 16 goals or like 18 goals, 32 assists. That's 50 points right there for Broberg. And I don't think that's completely outside of his game. Again, the goal number, he had a bunch right out of the gate. The goal number was a little inflated. I don't think he's that kind of goal scorer as a defenseman, but I mean, he could be the big defense scorer. And that's kind of why I asked, because I expect Parayko to maybe lift up that career high, maybe to the 40-point level, but Cam Fowler, he had a huge year. I don't expect him to not have another big year. But Broberg, I mean, you take away the injury time he had to spend last year, and he was cruising at the start of the year.
He was out essentially for the entire month of November. He got hurt in a game against Toronto on November 2nd, came back November 30th against Philadelphia. When he got hurt, he had 2 goals and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
so he had 7 before he got
7.
Yeah, 7 before he got hurt.
So it was 9 points before he got hurt, and then after that, and that's December, January, February, March. He had 8 goals and 25. So, or no, that's his entire career. He had 6 and 14. So. In 4 months. So I really don't think, and we mentioned this yesterday, I don't think that he was ever healthy after he came back last year. And I think a healthy Broberg for the entire season, I absolutely see. What did you give for his numbers that you think that he could pull off?
I think Broberg I think for him to be a 50-point player, I'm thinking like 18 goals, 32 assists, or 16 and 34.
So I was actually going to go more like 14 and 36.
Yeah,
I think he can be a 50-point guy. I don't think there's any doubt.
Again, if he's a 50-point guy, I think the Blues are reaching new heights this season, because that defensive scoring.
You know what, if they do that, they should start a podcast.
Damn it. Reaching new highs because it's a note thing, crescendos and all that.
Okay.
There we go. How about that? Okay.
That's good. Okay.
We're gonna beat the allegations from those people over in Pennsylvania.
I'm guessing, that one's probably registered.
We're going to roll on with more Blues talk, talking to our friend Mike Meyer joins us here. He is one of our men right here on STL Sports Central. He's going to be part of the post-game show. And really, if you have any questions about the young Blues skaters, he's the one that you have to ask. So Mike Meyer joins us now. Mike, how you doing today, sir? Oh, hold on a second. We're not able to hear you.
Hold on.
Here we go. I think we're good.
There we go.
There we go. I'm doing well, guys. Fall weather is finally here. We got Blues puck drop here in just a matter of hours. So I think this long off-season wait here is finally coming here to an end, and we can be able to put last season here behind us and look forward here towards the Stanley Cup run. I can be able to say whatever I want. We don't have any record here right now, so let's go towards that Stanley Cup playoff aspirations.
Mike, I want to start with this. It's something that we were just talking about. I don't know if you had a chance to hear it, but we were talking about Dvorsky and perhaps bringing him up when he's ready, when he gets a little bit more seasoning, to be a right wing on that third line and putting him with Suter and Neighbors. What is Dvorsky's skill set? Would he be kind of a playmaker as a right winger on a line like that?
I think that they would look to have him as a playmaker if he's going to come up and play that right wing role. Say that 10 times fast. But I think the Blues are really looking to be able to get him more into that center position here long term. And so that's where I think that they're going to want him to be able to stay down in the AHL, just continue to marinate and just grow and develop here as best as possible. If he were, again, be able to, for your question, for him to be able to come up and play that role, I think a right wing playmaker would suit his style, but you can never hear, just like Jimmy Snuggerud, underestimate his shot.
And that brings me right into another young player that we were going to talk about, Jimmy Snuggerud. We saw just over a dozen games from him last year, but why is he a first line NHL winger already?
Well, I think that you've already seen a lot of it here through the preseason. You see his vision, you see his work ethic, you see his, not just his shot, but his playmaking abilities here as well. He just sees the ice just so well. On top of this, I do think that he is more than capable of playing, and he also needs to be playing with those high-end level players here to just really, I think, fully bring out the best here in his game. So putting him down here on the second and third lines, I just don't think that you get enough here from a player here like Jimmy Snuggerud. And that's not a knock here on him by any stretch of the imagination. I think, if anything, that's more of a compliment to him that he can be able to play here with those high-octane level players who also need to see the game and the level at that same pace that he plays here at.
We heard Doug Armstrong, from the time he made the deal with Montreal, say that Logan Mailloux is going to need time. We have not seen a whole lot of him, obviously only training camp and preseason games. But did you see enough of Mailloux to give you a gauge as to what his skill set looks like?
I think you're seeing plenty here from him here so far. It is, like you said, it's a limited sample size, but you saw enough of the calling card here from him, that offensive ability, that playmaking ability. But I think you're seeing plenty here of the vinegar that he can be able to throw at you. He's got into a couple of like the little scraps, one fight. He's not afraid to be able to get dirty and get here into the tough checking areas here back in his own zone. I think his calling card is just going to be a mixture here of all those different areas. And I think at this point, he's ready to be able to take on a second pairing level, but the Blues want to be able to just ease him here into that. And so I think the Blues have found something really special here in a player here in Logan Mailloux.
So how third line defense or third pairing defenseman, we know he has the offensive talent. We know he has the athleticism. So they already have a lot of talented power play quarterbacks. So how do they get Mailloux involved, and how do they show his offensive game more than usual? Is it him taking more chances than you usually see from a third pair defenseman? How do they accentuate that talent?
Well, and that's going to be the tough part because they've got a lot of mouths to be able to feed here. You know, you've got Colton Pareko, you've got Philip Broberg, you've got Justin Fall. I mean, just be able to you can just keep going down the line that all of these guys could be able to play a very, very good quarterback role here on a first or second power play unit. But I think the biggest thing is that you've seen it where Jim Montgomery is wanting his defensemen to be more engaged here in the offensive zone. And he's given the liberties and the free reign here to these defensemen to say, hey, you guys have the offensive capabilities here and you guys have the special talents here. Go, please use them because we don't want to rely here just on our forwards. And I think that you're starting to see this trend here across the NHL in and of itself, where you're starting to see more of the roving defender, make their way here through, the offensive zone and be able to start engaging higher here in the offensive plays, where you've almost got more of a 3-1-1 type of a development instead of a 3-2. And so this is where, again, you give a guy here like a Logan Mailloux a chance to be able to just access the rush and for him to just get deeper here in the offensive zone and be able to make a quicker shot, and hopefully be able to put that puck here on net like we've seen him so well to be able to do instead of just shooting it wide and hoping that he's going to be able to get somebody to be able to tip it.
Hey, Mike, as we're seeing on the scroll here, people can check out your great work on the Blues and Blues prospects at stlsportscentral.com and also follow you on Twitter at M_Meyer, M-E-Y-E-R, M_Meyer3. Okay, so if the Blues have an early injury to a forward, let's start with the forwards. Who's the guy in Springfield that gets called up? And let's leave Dvorsky out of the mix. I want to start with that. Who do they call up to kind of fill a role here?
Well, I think what you would like is a guy with a little bit more of experience, and that's where they could lend themselves to a Nikita Alexandrov. He has more than excelled here right now down in the AHL. If he was healthy all season long, you could have been looking at a top 3 or a top 5 point producer here in the AHL last season. I think he gets a good look, but then you also saw a guy here here in the preseason work his way up, and Otto Stenberg. And so, you feel very comfortable getting him up into the lineup and putting him on that third line, maybe even a fourth line role. Just get his little feet wet and get him that chance to show what he can be able to do here at the NHL level. So if you're not going to be counting here at Dalibor Dvorsky, again, I think you can be able to go with Alexandrov here or Otto Stenberg.
And one guy, it seems like every highlight I see of Juraj Pekarczyk, it seems like he's doing something spectacular all the time. What's your take on him?
Boy, he's got great vision, doesn't he? He is quick. He is not afraid to be able to mix it up here as well. He's not an overly physical player, but this is a guy who, the same way here, like a Jimmy Snuggerud, I mean, he just sees the ice so well, so clear, thinks the plays here just really far in and of its head. I think that you're going to be able to see a very valuable top 6 winger here coming forward in the NHL. Somebody who's more than capable to be able to put up at least a half a point per game, if not looking at 50, 60 points here at the peak of his career.
By the way, for not being physical, and you're right, he's 6'2" and 204. So it's not like the body isn't able to be physical. He's just not, right?
He's a big boy. Again, he's more than happy to be able to mix it up a little bit here if he needs to. But he's a guy who is not afraid to be able to get into the dirty areas, play hard here on the defense, but go in strong here on a forecheck as well.
Some of the moves that happened late here for the St. Louis Blues, obviously we had the injury, but the Blues lost a goaltender in Colton Ellis. They tried to get him through waivers that did not work so well. They've obviously made a move for Georgi Romanov, who I guess dodged the bullets, and they now have him locked in. What did the Blues lose in Ellis, and what was your reaction when that happened?
Boy, there was a bit of a bummer, and I actually just put an article here out there on STL Sports Central just about this, about how I think should there be, Lord willing, I'm knocking on tables as I was writing this article, should there be a long-term injury to one of Binnington or Hofer, who do you look at? Because right now you could have very easily have said Colton Ellis, because Colton Ellis was a top 3 goaltender here in the AHL last season, and I think a player that a lot of teams had their eye on, which is why Buffalo ended up claiming him. Now, granted, Buffalo has, I don't know, it feels like 10 different goaltenders here, in their organization that they could be able to call upon. So why not add one more? But this was absolutely a guy who could be able to earn a backup starting role today, and again, should an injury come up, boy, they're maybe looking at a little bit of a scramble situation.
Are you surprised that the Blues didn't try to find a taker for him in a trade? Or maybe they did.
I was, but at the same point in time, I think the reaction here from Doug Armstrong was, I think their normal reaction that they were probably going to be able to sneak him through waivers, and when everybody had this mass movement here at the waiver point here just the other day, Colton Ellis was absolutely a name that could have snuck by, and I just don't think that they were really counting on anybody able to say, well, we need another goaltender here in the mix. So I was a little bit surprised and honestly just very bummed because this is a player who has put in his fair share here in the AHL and just worked his way through. And I'm so happy to see him get his shot here in the NHL.
One other question from that same that waiver report, because I'm at the level where I know who Hunter Skinner is, but yet I don't have a reaction when I see his name in the waiver wire. And yet I was seeing some of the more tied in Blues fans kind of reacting to the Hunter Skinner waiver move as well, and commenting on how worried they were about the ability to sneak him through. What did he show, and was that a legitimate? Do you think that was a legitimately tough decision for the Blues to send him down and not keep him up this year?
I don't think it was necessarily a tough decision for them to be able to do it. It is more of one that would put Matthew Kessel here on notice that should he start to falter in his play a little bit, that he's the one who could be exposed and be able to bring a guy here like Hunter Skinner up. I think he showed a little bit more of a defensive responsibility here about him and be able to just see the game here very well and just kind of know his role. Whereas Matthew Kessel is still at times seeming like he's still trying to figure it out. He's had plenty of time here in the NHL, and whether he's suited up here or not, it's hard for us to be able to see what the future for a Matthew Kessel here is going to look like. Whereas he's, if you bring in a guy here like a Hunter Skinner, he can be able to play that hard checking style. He can be able to throw in here to the offense. And it's not that Matthew Kessel can't do it. It just seems like it's a Hunter Skinner could do it slightly better. So they're kind of playing this role where who's a better seventh defenseman and a guy who we can maybe inject into the lineup here if somebody, again, like a Tyler Tucker were to go down, that you go to inject one of those guys into the lineup and say, okay, well, we have the best defenseman in our organization taking this spot.
Hey, Mike, before we let you go, tell us about what you're going to do now that this hockey season is here and ramped up. Tell us about what you got going on here at STL Sports Central.
We've got plenty of analysis. I have way too many, as my wife says, way too many Excel sheets as I'm starting to just break down the lineups, and I'm looking here and trying to do a little bit more of statistical analysis so that it's a little bit more that you're trying to see more than just the eye test. Are these guys really performing here up to snuff? Is it bad luck, good luck that they're end up seeing? I'm trying to work here together some more interviews, some in-depth player coverage, again, with the player analysis here. I'm open to any and all suggestion here and be able to see what the fans truly want to be able to see, hear, and read.
All right. Beautiful. Hey, thanks for your time. We appreciate you joining us here on the Randy Karraker Show, and we'll see you as the season goes along, Mike.
Thanks so much, guys. Appreciate it.
All right,
talk to you later, Mike. Thank you so much for your time, sir.
Mike Meyer with us on the Randy Karraker Show on STL Sports Central.
It was a fun show.
It was a good show. Tomorrow, we're going to talk to Cam Jansen, not Cam Fowler, Cam Jansen about the Blues opener, and we're also going to talk to Bernie Miklas. So we've got quite a Randy Karraker Show coming up for you tomorrow as well. And of course, we are brought to you by DraftKings, where the crown is yours. Wilson got us on the air. As always, great work by the one, the only Matthew Rocchio. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Randy.
By the way, why are you down on Panda Express?
Oh, I don't know. I just don't want to give him publicity until they give us money.
Oh, okay. Are we asking for money from him?
We should, though. We're going to start now.
I give him enough.
Yeah, there you go.
No,
we don't actually need cash. Just make sure Randy doesn't have to pay anymore.
Yeah, there you go. I like that idea.
As long as Randy's fueled and happy, we're making our cut.
All right, there we go. That's the Randy Karraker Show. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you tomorrow. Take care, everyone.